Courage the Cowardly Dog was for the coolest cats in town, and it follows the best doggo in all of media ever. Fight me, Scooby. But in this episode, The Curse of King Ramses, we are introduced to one of the strangest characters in the entire show. Follow me while I break down the episode. We start out in a high-speed chase with a helicopter following a car filled with some cat burglars. Get it? Cause they're cat. These two goons have just recently pulled off a heist from a museum, and of all places, on their way away in the chase, they stop outside of our favorite house in the middle of nowhere with our favorite trio of characters so that they can dump the evidence and come back for it later once the heat's died down. They decide to bury it by a landmark, this water well right here, and intend to come back, but are greeted by the curse of King Ramses. And just like that, King Ramses has our skeptical ne'er-do-wells devoured entirely by a hungry swarm of locusts. Two fun facts here. Number one, did you know that locusts are actually environmentally stressed grasshoppers? And when there is a scarcity of food, they can essentially frenzy and just search and destroy. A lot like the way that you see, although less devouring of cars. Secondly, this definitely paints King Ramses in a different light than the historical, probably the most famous pharaoh that we all have seen in depictions. He's said to have started many of the building projects, and strangely is also said to have died from complications of arthritis. I thought that that was pretty interesting as well. But historically, the real King Ramses is described as a very powerful yet benevolent ruler, and yet in Courage the Cowardly Dog, he's kind of just really miserly with his things. Courage hears the commotion in the middle of the night and decides to investigate the next morning, digging up the spot where the crooks stashed the tablet. We get a good look at it with an inscription of Courage the Cowardly Dog's Ramses, along with a couple icons that we're going to become a little bit better acquainted with here in the near future. The bestest doggo does what he does best, and he brings his stuff back to Muriel, the only one who ever really seems to take him seriously. She honestly is just one of the most wholesome characters that I have ever seen, and it's really great. As always, Eustace is angrily dismissive until a broadcast comes in, talking about how the tablet that Courage has brought into his house is actually worth millions of dollars, and he realizes that he is most likely rich, trying very hard to forget the fact that it is 100% stolen and no one is going to pay him for this right now.
Then, Eustace, we must return it to its rightful place.
He said $1 million slab, and that means I get $1 million. And you know what $1 million means?
Now, while Eustace is counting his mummified chicken eggs long before they hatch, Courage notices that one of the inscriptions on the tablet begins to fade, the one that signifies King Ramses himself. Well, I mean, I can kind of understand someone getting caught up in the feeling and emotion of expecting $1 million, right? I mean, all of the things that we could buy, I'm sure Eustace is planning on buying something really, really cool, right?
That's right. New lawn chairs.
Like, why even covet $1 million if the first thing you think about buying are a couple of lawn chairs, right? I mean, what do you even need it for at that point? Although Eustace does get the idea to put out an ad trying to sell the tablet back, even though he heard that it was stolen. And as soon as he gets off the phone, just telling an ad agency, yep, I want to run an ad. Okay, run it. Cartoon logic. You get a representative knocking on their door from the museum that the tablet was stolen from.
I am Professor Frith of the Institute of Ephemera. I've come to retrieve the slab.
What's your offer?
Sir, the Institute for Ephemera is member-supported. But for every $1 million donation, you'll receive this sporty tote bag with our thanks.
Now, the general joke is that Eustace is a greedy old D-bag, but in this very specific instance, if I have your priceless artifact and you show up to my door and you say, well, I'm not going to pay you, but if you pay me $1 million, I'll take that priceless artifact that was stolen from me, and you get this tote bag with my face on it, I'm going to slam the door in your face as well. Let's just be honest. Eustace is yet again blinded by the prospect of money and ignores Muriel's pleas to return the tablet, while he descends into a darker and darker pit of very, very useless things that he would blow $1 million on. The family in the middle of nowhere receive an unwelcome guest.
Fly swatter, spark plugs, shovel handle, razor blade, light bulb for the attic.
Return the slab.
What?
Return the slab, or suffer my curse.
Honestly, as far as ancient Egyptian curses go, for the first phase to be just simply a warning and just please give me back my slab, pretty tame. Although, obviously, because Eustace is a rational man, he's going to realize that the ghostly mummy that has just shown up at his doorstep probably is going to do him and his family great harm if he doesn't return the slab, right?
What's your offer?
Yeah, no, that tracks. Of course he would want money, yeah.
This night you will be visited by 3 plagues, each worse than the last. Return the slab.
Ha! Nice try, Professor. Who's he kidding? I can see the zipper on that cheap dime store costume.
Let's just acknowledge the absurd and ridiculous and creepy design of King Ramses here. I mean, just look at that hair dancing along with him, with the voice and like the weird early 90s like animation, just perfectly liminal. He tells Eustace that because he is a stubborn old mule, there are going to be 3 plagues visited upon him this night. And while Eustace is complaining because apparently he thinks that the short, squat Professor Frith from the Institute of Ephemera had, I don't know, been put through a taffy puller or been subject to the rack so that he could really thin out and fit a strange Halloween costume to try and trick the tab back into his custody, Scooby-Doo style. Courage notices that the first insignia, what looks like some water, fades away as well. Coming up live later tonight, we have mass reports of ghost tongue hauntings. That is the Filipino Dilo that we will be going into later tonight. Also, we have 3 strange tricks that witches and vampires both hate and that you can use to keep you and your family safe. But first, we're going to throw it over to our weather correspondent who is maintaining our Cthulhu Rise coverage. Bird, how you doing? Well, Timothy, as you can see, we do have some disturbance over off in the horizon, and there are people, even within this very heavy torrential downpour, that are starting to talk about consuming the flesh of their fellow man. Now, this has been said to happen. This is what we understand is the madness step of the invasion, and that's great, Perd. Anyway, I've just been informed that we need to make room for one of our sponsors. Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. My name is Mr. Dr. Person, and I run the channel Scald of Cthulhu. Here, we like to talk about strange folklore, dark cosmic gods and beings, strange mythological items from cultures all around the world, ghosts and spirits from every single culture that you can think of. Camera change. That's better. Here at Scald of Cthulhu, you can find a lot of grim dark lore every single day. Camera change. Do you like vampires and other things that'll steal your bodily juices? Camera change. How about cosmic beasts and other dark things from the Cthulhu mythos? Camera change. Seriously though, if you do like grimdark lore, or if you think that for whatever reason any of the things that you've seen thus far have any kind of entertainment value at all, then give me a follow. And like I said, I post about 3 times a day, trying to really dial that in. And I've also got long form content coming in as well. Final camera change. Legally, I'm required to tell you that I am not actually a licensed nor practicing doctor. My name is just Mr. Dr. Person, whatever I said before. Anyway, back to your previously scheduled programming. I think that's good. I have no idea who that was. Bird, you got an update on Cthulhu's Rising? No. Stay away from my eyes. Stay away from my eyes! The first plague turns out to be a flood, and while they're inside the house, it literally begins to rain, which I find interesting because instead of flooding the entire desert, they flood the house itself, which is an interesting point of control. Perhaps King Ramses has lost some power and influence since he's been gone for so long. As is standard with these episodes, Courage is left to fix everything because Muriel is in a state of panic, and Eustace is entirely useless, clutching the tab and somehow breathing through a snorkel even though he is entirely submerged. Not gonna lie, used to think that that's how snorkels worked because you would see people entirely underwater with one in like cartoons and stuff. It's just the idiocy of youth. Courage is able to fix the problem, as he always is in the end, by going to the basement, and as we all do, we all have an emergency flood drain that we can just pull like it's a tub, right? Courage's easy fixing of this first plague of his leads to one of my favorite of the very limited voice lines that we actually have for King Ramses. I just love how dejected King Ramses is here, and the fact that he's this all-powerful spirit, returned from the grave, this force of nature almost, and he is entirely defeated by indoor plumbing. While the house begins to dry out, we see that the second icon, what looks like an old school gramophone, begins to fade away, and we're treated to one of the more surreal scenes in Courage the Cowardly Dog, where essentially, to torture them, King Ramses plays his personal theme song. So again, the all-powerful, very scary spirit returned King Ramses has decided that one of the ways he deals with people who infiltrate and pilfer his very hallowed and respected tomb is to set up a gramophone and play some kind of 50s club music for himself, which again, the surreality of Courage the Cowardly Dog is always just chef's kiss top tier. The very best doggo finds the gramophone and beats the ever-living hell out of it, which gives everyone a moment to think. Muriel begins to pressure Eustace into giving the tablet back, although in what he thinks is obeying what she is requesting of him, he opens the window and actually just says that the least amount of money that he'll take is $1 million. It's then that we see that the locust insignia begins to fade away. Now finally, with this last curse, King Ramses kicks it up to the absolute highest level and he pulls out the big guns, the all-devouring locust swarm. And while the swarm works its way through the farm in the middle of nowhere, eating everything in sight and starting to devour the actual house itself, Courage and Eustace are physically fighting over the tablet. Eustace still desperately trying to hold on to this perceived $1 million payday that he's going to receive, and Courage desperately trying to just keep them all alive. And probably my favorite thing is that while these two are fighting over their lives, Muriel is just stress baking in the back, and she's actually doing a pretty damn good job at it as well. It all comes to a head when Courage is finally able to get his hands onto the tablet alone, and he's able to throw it out of the window, and everything seems to be okay. Everyone gets a breather for themselves until, of course, Eustace ruins it all.
No, I can't believe I did that. It's mine. Eh? That's 3 plagues. You're out of ammo, mister. And don't think you can come around here pushing no tote bags on us, neither.
Well, a stubborn old mule's gonna keep being a stubborn old mule, and Eustace runs out to try to retrieve the tablet, paying no mind to King Ramses being but a couple feet away. In fact, accusing him of being entirely out of ammunition because he's thrown out his 3 plagues, therefore he has no access to them anymore. I guess you just got one shot and then you're done. Although I guess Courage did destroy his gramophone. I also find it funny that he still thinks, after all of that, that King Ramses is just Professor Firth from the Institute of Ephemera.
What's your offer?
Return the slab.
With Eustace served his just desserts by way of locust swarm, the surreal horror comes to a cozy end. Muriel rocking slowly and calmly with Courage on her lap the way that it always should be, watching a news report featuring Professor Firth from the Institute of Ephemera, recounting what they've done with Ramses' tablet after it was placed back in their possession.
At last, the allegedly cursed slab has been returned to King Ramses' crypt, where it will remain buried in antiquity for all time.
Oh, I wonder where Eustace is.
What's your offer?
Now, I really love this ending. So not only do we see the monkey's paw, genie's wish kind of twist on Eustace's ultimate demise, being that apparently he has swapped places with King Ramses. Perhaps now King Ramses doesn't have to send a projection of himself anymore. Maybe now Eustace is the one that will show up telling you basically to return the slab or suffer my curse, right? But another interesting factor about that is, while Eustace demanded $1 million for the return of the slab, technically the slab was returned, and now that he is imprinted upon it, Eustace is technically worth $1 million. Although apparently he's screaming forever locked inside of a piece of stone in an Egyptian tomb. Anyway, it's a great children's show, don't you think?